Greetings and shout out to all of my early risers. Send you warm, positive vibrations. This is Body-Culinary and welcome to another early day. I really love to take advantage of the quiet wee hours of the early morning because it's a time when you can find your mental processing and your divine onboard intelligence is so clear and calm before all the interference from all the other voices and transmissions from these screens and from the radio starts clouding the bandwidth. So, welcome to another fresh new day. I hope that you are rested well. And if you're not rested well, hopefully you can rest at some point in the middle of the day. Even if you take a few moments, feel free to pull your car over or perhaps shut the office door and lay on the floor and do nothing and relax. Give yourself some support. I invite you to give yourself some support and perhaps replay this as you're lying on the floor, maybe in a fetal position, as you are decluttering, as you're cutting your fruits and vegetables. I consider it a sacred time when you are preparing the nourishment that is going to come in and become a part of your body temple. So, welcome to the early day, my early risers. I love this early part of the day. Uh, if you are new to this channel, I'm Body-Culinary, a professional chef, personal trainer. Those are some of the things that I do. I'm a natural born woman. Shout out to you, whatever your expression is. I enjoy being a natural woman. I'm also a mother, and I'm very passionate about several lifestyle practices. And on this page, this is what I share: encouragement and motivation to three things. To start a garden for garden therapy and food security and relaxation. A personal movement practice to move your nutrition around your hair and body to your scalp to pump your lymphatic system, which pumps a lot of waste out of the system. Cannot be pumped. The lymphatic system cannot be pumped without a movement practice. And then there's also peaceful consumption. It's what I'm calling it, peaceful consumption, a consumption pattern of food that loves you back, right? We don't have to trip out into the different labels because we really don't need one more thing to divide us. So for me, what that looks like is consumption that is focused around whole, you may hear my bunnies moving around, whole, fresh living, and roosters and crickets. Whole, fresh living fruits, vegetables, nuts, and seeds in moderation, untoasted, so I can get the benefit of all the nutrition from the fats, legumes, sprouts. I love sprouted legumes, and also fresh ground herbs and spices. So you'll have to find what that sweet spot is for you, and you'll know by how you feel and the results in your body. So on this channel, I invite you to take your time. I invite you to take on 110% responsibility for your health. It's easy to get lost in this rabbit hole of screen time and lose a lot of hours and not really get anything back from it. So hopefully you're motivated to get into action around what you say you value. And if health is high up on your list of priorities, right, then it's likely you'll be making deposits into the 401k of your health. That is something that we actually have to do to make a deposit so that we can reap the benefits, right? Health is something to be cultivated. So you're welcome to, before I jump into the rest of the video, there are several offerings and guides and things that may be helpful to you, some resources, and those are Whole Living Foods in the Hood with menus to fit your budget. That is a guide with any kind of the questions that you could ask me over a decade. I've been in the industry of health and fitness for over 3 decades, and a guide to how I'm eating whole, fresh, living, unprocessed foods as a lifestyle. And I prefer living foods. You may want something that's slightly cooked. This guide is not even a dehydrator. And it's lots of pictures of the whole, fresh, living foods that I've been eating. If people are buying tons of produce, some folks may not know what to do with all that produce or how to manage it. There's also natural beauty No products, love your own hair and skin. If perhaps you're one of those folks like me that's had a lot of acne and cystic acne and hyperpigmentation, it really cleansed and healed. My body is the healer once I stopped clogging it up with substances masquerading as food. So I did share the links for that. And on this channel, natural bodies matter. We deserve to feel comfortable in our own divinely assigned hair and skin. So, into this early days video, as I was moving about in the early days, feeding the rabbits and getting ready for my movement practice and about to go into the garden, I was just contemplating how, and I've shared this often on this channel, how much taking certain things off the table, it's a swap out, right? It can give you a lot of access. So I call this hair freedom hair. It's just doing what it wants to do. I've decided to take a lot off of the table, go along for the ride and see what it does. So I don't have to worry about it. I'm not twisting. I'm not going sitting in any salons. Now, it's not wrong if you do, right? I've had a journey of trying everything on, right? I enjoyed a really short natural peach fuzz cut for many years, double strand twists. The point is, I've decided to take a lot of the distraction off the table and to swap out a lot of those time and resources I would be spending on my hair for my garden and my movement practice and travel and other things. It's not bad or wrong if you want to wear makeup and to dress nicely. You're on your own personal journey. We can get so lost in these reality TV shows. This is your time on this planet, and you, I, and everyone else for a fact is going to take off and step out of these human suits. So you get to design your life exactly how you want it. And we need health and vitality in order to be present and to enjoy ourselves out here, right? So I was contemplating how much not only physical time and resources and financial resources I've freed up, but I noticed there are some subtleties, some subtle distinctions. And I found that this natural lifestyle and freedom hair, especially as one with this distinct DNA marker, right? We're spending so much time for us to feel better about ourselves because of what we are faced with when we go outside of the door. I've decided to even take that off the table because someone else writing the narrative for what is accessible doesn't really resonate with me. And it's always in someone else's hands. So just stepping into this natural style that I've been born with is actually quite a journey. And it's actually been very fulfilling and rewarding just to patiently sit with myself. It's very, very revealing. So this frees up a lot of mental access to relaxation when you remove the things that you are worried about, right? When you're not worried about your hair, you're not worried about your skin because you know you're doing the best that you could do. So if I was to get a diagnosis tomorrow, is anything, and that is my rabbits, is there anything that you would be changing? Let me see if my bunny's gonna come over here. Come on, Frida. Come on. You know, y'all wanna come over here. Come on, bunny. Y'all can come over. Is there anything that you would be doing differently? Right? Can you say that there's anything, if you got a diagnosis tomorrow, that you would be doing differently? And my bunnies, they want to come along for the ride. So they're going to say hello this morning. Greetings, you all. Say hi, Magical. Hi. This one likes to be held. Most bunnies don't like to be held. So if you've got a diagnosis today, tomorrow, can you say that there's anything that you'll be doing differently when it comes to your lifestyle practices? And this one is jumping in the compost. Kitty cool? No. Come out of it. You had your breakfast already. You see, y'all getting in trouble early in the day. This one is a little spicy. Tiny and spicy. Is there anything that you would be doing differently? Right? Would you change your eating pattern? Is there anything you would be eating differently? Would you be doing a movement practice? Or will we just be on reality TV all day? Is there anything that you would be doing differently? So I invite you to consider, how can you alter your lifestyle to a more natural lifestyle that is beneficial to relaxation, that's conducive to relaxation. I would say that relaxation gives us access to a lot of the contentment that we're looking for externally. A question for this early day I invite you to consider, and you're welcome to journal this or think about it maybe in a relaxed way if you're driving so you're paying attention to the road, is how often are you triggered? How often have you noticed how often that you are triggered? When I say triggered, where you find yourself, without making yourself bad or wrong, in mindless activities, whether that's eating. Come on, bunnies. My bunnies acting like they decide when it's time for meditation. They want to go for broke. No more. Stay out of the compost. How often actually are you triggered into mindless eating, or even perhaps without making bad or wrong, with being triggered into just pulling up a movie, right? To quote unquote relax, but we're no longer present. So we're going off into the mind, right? And the mind is not the brain, right? The brain is the physical organ, and the mind is a type of mental processing. It's a function of the brain. Do you notice how often you're triggered into mindless behavior? So, this is why I say that the relaxation and taking a lot of the things superficially that we're worrying about off the table can give you access to actually seeing very objectively a lot of the patterns that we have that are actually very self sabotaging, right? So, taking certain things off the table is going to free up a lot more space. It's the relaxation that can actually give us access to changing, to upgrading behaviors where it seems like it's taken us years to engage consistently healthy habits, right? Upgrading our fuel, things that we know we could be doing to improve our immune system and to make our bodies more limber. We know that we need a movement practice, right? So our bodies are functioning pain free into our senior years. So the self sabotage, as well as that zone that you get into where you're actually consistently motivated and you're building up on that motivation, where does that come from? How can you flip the switch and trigger that? And I invite you to consider, right? Intuition, science, and responsibility, right? There's a lot intuitively that we know we should be doing. There's bruh science, some of we making up, sometimes we may use astrology and religion as a bypass. Right? And we're going to go into a bypass. To bypass actually can be a form of escapism and a way of skirting around the uncomfortable, the uncomfortableness, right, of strength training, of allowing our taste buds to go through withdrawal, right? We can be using things that make us feel better mentally as a bypass to rolling up our sleeves and being about the work. This early day, and I'm love to research. Love to research about health and fitness. It's just something that I'm drawn to. And so I was researching actually, because a big part of my work is exploring overeating, because that is definitely a pattern within my family history. And as I was researching, I came across information and research on saturated fats and nuts, even plant based. So, distinction, you can be a vegan, even a raw vegan, as we see with keto, zone. You can attach any of these labels, and we can still be scarfing down foods and amounts mindlessly, primarily as a self comfort. And we can think that it's healthy. We can even kid ourselves. It can even be healthy. And the amounts that we're taking in are too much for us. And without making ourselves bad or wrong, I invite you to consider that this could be cueing us into the response to complex post traumatic stress disorder. Right? Go with me here. As a response that now we have ingrained physiologically and chemically, a response to not just stress, right? Because we can minimize it by just saying it's stress, but actual trauma. Even many of us putting ourselves, males and females, right, into harm's way. It's easy to write us off and say we're just these irresponsible children that are having children out of wedlock. No one, and children will teach you this, do anything for a reason, not even a drug addict. There's something that we're trying to feel uh, uh, a sense of validation, a sense of peace, a sense of physiological comfort. And the folks usually selling us the products are very well aware of the process. So I'm researching this early day, and I'm researching nuts and saturated fat, which are very healthy. And I'm doing some actual research from the doctors, looking at who's funding all of the different studies. And I'm looking at some vegan doctors who are very transparent about information that they didn't know, and some vegan doctors who have been unethical, and doctors that have been unethical in the study of the Mediterranean diet. So it's quite a rabbit hole. And so knowing now on the other end, as a chef and also as a personal trainer, having clients that have had stents put into their heart, had, basically propping your arteries open. And then knowing that these same people haven't had this surgery several times. And then being served the steak coming out of surgery. I've mentioned this before, which is absolutely astounding, because it's not that this is just happening to us. We're engaged in this process. I would call it a cognitive, I don't think it's funny, of cognitive dissonance. So this leads me to looking at several things. Diabetes, I don't know if we want to say spiritual, because we can get very woo, but just on a basic level of craving sweets and getting that blood sugar rush, that cycle, right? And eventually we become insulin resistant, but constantly needing that chemical dopamine, the dopamine that we're getting from chips and sugar and organic cookies and fruit juice sweetened cookies. It's still the dopamine. The things that we're tapping into and watching, whether it's Fright or Fear or reality TV, dopamine is literally a chemical reaction that's happening, right? So the diabetes is just a symptom of what is happening with us, right? Emotionally, psychologically. And I found, and I can just speak for myself, folks can respectfully disagree. Coming up in the church, I saw this pattern of obesity that the praying and the begging and the supplication and the consecration fast didn't seem to handle it. They didn't seem to handle it. The obesity, we could call it spiritual, but there's something mentally that's happening there, and it's also chemical. It may be more socially acceptable than crack or heroin and other stuff, but there's something happening. It's a spectrum, but it's definitely a dopamine response. We're looking for a hit, a chemical response. And there will be no shortage of folks on a YouTube platform, whether it's male or female, that have us blaming the other gender, blaming our parents, even though some things have definitely happened to us, right? That don't empower us. Just the same way we could talk about the system doesn't want you smart and doesn't want you off of drugs. That psychological dopamine hit that we're getting from just watching YouTube or watching Netflix, there's something chemical and physical that is happening. So with whole, fresh, living foods, foods that are full of living water and nutrients, they actually, I have found, give you access, right? To put it really simplistically, now that you are full of water, fiber, and a lot of nutrient dense foods, you can notice the dopamine cycle coming on again as stress and memories or whatever you're watching triggers you. You can notice almost the impulse to want to eat, yet you can realize I'm actually physiologically not hungry. This is huge. This is huge in giving you access to change. That's one. Number two, one of the reasons why I emphasize a personal movement practice that is consistent, safe, get some education, something you can do. You don't have to necessarily join a gym. It's such an essential practice because you are getting a dopamine shot of chemicals inside, as well as you are neutralizing that cortisol response, because it's another way for you to manage your stress in a very practical way. These simple lifestyle practices are taking care of a myriad of things that we need. In addition, as I'm watching some of these top researchers, and there are only two that have been known to actually uh, reverse heart disease, right? To Dr. Esselstyn and I think it's Dr. John McDougall, as I'm studying their research, right? They're vegan. You can find all kinds of research to justify anything, whether that's meat, this or that. The thing for us, or vegetables, the thing for us to develop is the discernment. That is what is missing with us, because we are quite often distracted by the personalities or the outfits that are telling us what we want to hear. I don't know everything, but after 30 years, I can discern patterns. I know enough to look at research that is totally opposite of what my preferences are. So, and it's quite a rabbit hole. It takes quite a bit of time. But so I can discern, I know to look to see who's funding a study, how long was the study, how thorough was the study. These are things so that I can vet the information that's coming to me. And this applies to religion, to personalities, to health. There's no substitute for you doing your personal experimentation, taking personal responsibility, as well as being accountable and honest with yourself in your quiet moments. So, again, the calm of the relaxation, right? Relaxation, you can call it meditation if you want, not having to worry about the distraction of a whole lot of substances masquerading as food in your system, looking forward to your garden or nurturing your plants, looking forward to your movement practice. It takes so much off of the table. So it's almost a little workshop this early that we play this when you get a chance later. I invite you to consider, how are you managing your stress, right? Not just the physical stress, but definitely what we're taking in through these screens is stressful. The body is having a response. How are you managing the stress? How are you processing the stress? How are you adapting to the stress? How are you ingesting, and how much stress are you ingesting? Because the stress and the visuals and the audio is triggering behaviors. Just like we listen to all that old soul music. You listen to some old soul music, next thing you opening up your black book, calling people you ain't got no business calling. The things that we're taking in and ingesting and processing mentally are triggering behaviors. The reality TV is tapping into our imagination, right? Into our creative thought, right? And lastly, before I move on for the day, this I've mentioned this several times on this channel, and you can look this up. There are 5 basic primal human fears: the fear of death, the fear of poverty, the fear of old age, the fear of the loss of love or never finding love, and the fear of criticism, right? Fear of criticism, what's that? It's one of the reasons that we don't put ourselves out there, that we don't try something new, that we don't try that new craft, that we don't start that business, right? Fear of it's not good enough, or I'm not good enough. And it's lined right up with trauma. So as we move forward into this day, just a small relaxation, you can call it meditation. We don't need the labels. I invite you to consider and try it on for size, because I am is really, really important, right? The way that you are repeating mantras or affirmations, if you don't really believe it, it can actually have a reverse effect when you are lying to yourself. So I am is refers to your state of being, what you are right now. And you can cultivate and you can tweak and refine your state of being. So I invite you to consider, I am present right now. We're present, it's quiet, it's early. I'm present. I am breathing. That's the truth. We're breathing right now in these human suits. I am here. I am listening. I'm courageous. How does that feel? I'm courageous. I'm getting better. I am brave. Now, maybe some things that you might be scared about. So, without making ourselves bad or wrong, I'm scared. I'm nervous. And I'm excited. So you can transmute without lying to yourself. You can transmute this internal dialogue that's going on all the time. You don't have to lie to yourself. You can admit, I'm scared. Because if we don't admit these things, we'll take and transmute our focus into reality TV and getting lost in these screens, right? There's a lot that we can have the feeling or the emotion of scared, right? But it's giving us a clue. I'm scared, I'm nervous, and I'm also excited. Excitement is really, really key. Why? Because getting excited about your garden, getting excited about your personal movement practice, getting yourself excited about exploring ways to eat healthily is so critical. So I invite you to consider and to transmute. I'm scared and move it up the scale to make yourself feel better. I'm a little nervous and I'm excited and I'm ready and I'm cultivating calm. So I invite you to take a comfortable position, your spine upright. I want to breathe in through the nose and out through the nose. So I invite you to make use of your breath. So simple. Again, it's something that we have access to. I invite you to feed yourself the most beautiful, colorful, nutrient dense, living water rich, peaceful, high octane fuel that is available to you to nourish and to nurture your calm, your organs, your vitality, and your longevity and your mood. And I invite you to create a great day on purpose, simply because you said so. Create a great day, and I'll see you soon. Feel free to like, comment respectfully, and subscribe.